Your sole income is from sewing.
Yeah, but that has been 14 years in the making. Both my parents had their own businesses, and I said to myself, I will
Okay.
never, ever, ever have my own business because I see the stress that they go through financially, and I do not want that in my life. If you really want this, you're going to have to go for it. You can't keep saying you want it and not do anything to get it. I went viral twice in 1 year, 270,000 followers from that one reel.
How many views did that
Oh,
give
10
you?
million? And I see it as a massive responsibility because nearly a million people have allowed me onto their device. I would work on my business during the day and then I would have evening shifts. I did 4 years of ice cream scooping. That is what allowed me to live whilst building the business. That's why it's so important to rebrand sewing. I still do buy fast fashion. I still buy clothes. That is now where we go from 1 million followers to like 1 million pieces of clothing saved from landfill.
Annie's the founder of Ford Wardrobe, a sewing business which empowers you to create, express yourself, and embrace sustainability. She's on a mission to teach 1 million people to sew, and with close to 1 million followers on social media, she's almost there. Hi, nice to
Well,
meet you.
nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for setting this up.
Ah, no problem. Your sole income is from sewing.
Yeah, yeah, but that has been 14 years in the making. My backstory of like how I ended up where I am now was a week after my 16th birthday, I got a job. I've always had a job, always, always, always. From a young age, both my parents had their own businesses, and I said to myself, I will
Okay.
never, ever, ever have my own business because I see the stress that they go through financially, and I do not want that in my life. But to cut a long story short, as years went on and I got more life experience, I kind of came to the conclusion that my sister said it best. She said, Annie, you always think your way is the right way. Somebody can tell you to do something, but if they tell you to do it in a way that's going to take a lot of time, energy, or effort, and you think you know a better way, you're going to do that and you're going to be annoyed that they told you to do it another way. So you can't be managed. You're never going to have a successful job, career, whatever, if you're not working for yourself. During COVID is when I really started posting more reels. And then I remember I went from like 3,000 followers to 20,000. And having 20,000 followers in New Zealand is like celebrity Beyonce kind of level.
Oh,
Like it was
really?
huge. Yeah. Yeah. Well, back then at least, like I didn't know anyone else that had that many followers.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I can do this. And it's my sewing stuff. When I came to Australia and I was living with my sister as well for 6 weeks, I noticed my creativity like really slumped
Mhm.
as it is now. I eventually got into my own place and started, when you're in a really inspirational environment, you just constant, 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 and it's great. Then I got my own space and then I went viral twice in 1 year and kind of got me to where I am today. But throughout that whole stint, up until 2 months ago, I was working part-time job in
Okay.
hospitality. Yeah, so what I would do, it was work on my business during the day, and then I would have evening shifts. So it'll be like I did a lot of ice cream scooping. That is what allowed me to live whilst building the business because there's no
Yeah.
way I could build the business in the way that I wanted it to be and the way I wanted it represented without having a part-time job. It's just not possible. But what that did mean was that my budget was very harsh. So
Yeah.
like my disposable income for groceries, travel, everything except rent and bills
Mm.
was $100 a week. But yeah, it's very tough. I lived at home until I was 25.
So that's a major change then, isn't it? So you don't do
Yeah.
any other part-time income at all. So
No,
now it's just your
no,
sewing.
it's just my sewing.
I mean, that's fantastic. But like you say,
Yeah.
that's taken a lot to get there.
This is the change that kind of I had to make. And I knew I had to make before jumping. I'm so used to a paycheck that not having one regularly comes in is difficult.
Mm.
However, I've got to look at it big picture. You need to be better at budgeting that. You need to do that self-talking a lot more and you need to make sure that you're not over exaggerating things in your mind.
Mhm.
It's the real self talk that I've had to get better at. By the time I was ready to leave, finances weren't adding up, and I'm like, you know what, I have to stay. Like, as annoying as that is,
Yeah.
things ain't working right now, so let's just make sure rent is paid, food, bills, all that's covered, and let's keep on working until you get your next financial breakthrough, and then you can leave your job, which is what happened.
That was a full-time job. If you were doing 35 hours a week, you really were working a full-time job.
Yeah, yeah, but that was so normal for me.
So I work as well, so I've got that income, but it is actually very, very difficult to
Yeah,
make
and I
money.
see a lot of sewing businesses going out of business
Yeah.
because it is difficult.
And I think being an entrepreneur and working for yourself, it's not easy. And if it was
Mm,
easy, more people would be doing it. You just see little snippets of highlight. You don't see all the rest of it and all the sort of the
yeah.
real difficult stuff. Sometimes I think as well, the numbers on Instagram can be people see big numbers and they think, oh, you must be making an absolute fortune. But actually, I don't think that that is the case always.
No, no. And I've seen some creators, not in the sewing community, but in other things, that say, oh, I've retired my husband from his 8-figure job. And I'm sorry, what? Like, no, I know you're not, because I'm going through the numbers, and like, if I can't do that, how are you doing it one with like 1/12 of the, like,
Yeah.
how are you doing this? And then I like check stuff, and I'm just like, no.
You mentioned about social media. So you said you went viral twice and that
Yeah.
got you to where you are. So do you mean like you had
Mm.
two separate videos that increased because
Did
you're
really
really
well.
wow.
Yeah.
So what did they
So
do and where did they take you from and to?
when I moved to my own apartment, I was at 20,000 followers. I said to myself, look, Annie, if you really want this, you're going to have to go for it. You can't keep saying you want it and not do anything to get it. I made a list of all the things that would help make this a full-time thing for myself. So one of them was like post 4 times a week. And it wasn't a case of like just post whatever. It was like, okay, there's this trending sound going around, I'm going to jump on that. I'm sewing something at the moment and I want to do a little bit on that, like just kind of upped my
Yeah.
output. One of the things that I jumped on was like just something I found funny. It was about teaching beginners how to sew. I posted about that, and that reel 70,000 followers. With followers, I posted that reel and then started off slow, and there was one day got 7 followers, and then I got 25, and then I got 100, and then it went from like getting 100 a day to 100 an hour to
Wow.
1,000 a day to 1,000 an hour.
Wow.
And I got 270,000 followers from that one reel. I panicked a bit. Me was like, I think I should take it down because this is something I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
But the thing that I took away from that was proof of concept. People want to learn how to sew,
Hmm.
and it's being put in front of them in a fun and interesting way.
Yeah.
And I'd been posting consistently for like 3 years. So my
So
Instagram
it
account
took
was pretty
3 years.
established.
It took three
It
years to
took
get to that stage.
So I started Ford Wardrobe back in 2019,
Hmm.
and I went viral in 2023. So it took
And,
4 years.
and how many views did it have? When you say it went viral, how many views did that
Oh,
give
10
you?
million? 10 million views?
10 million. Wow.
Yeah, oh, like it was a big number. I don't know what it's at now. But yeah, so that went viral. And then you have the high of it all, and then like you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. So I was
Yeah.
really figuring it out. Then it kind of died down, and I ended up losing a bunch of followers. The end of its virality, it went from gaining me 270,000 followers to, and then I went down 20,000 just from like a bunch of stuff. People go, oh, I can't remember why I followed this account. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Unfollow. It is what it is. And I was losing followers, and I was really panicking because I was like, I'm now losing. I've never lost this amount of followers. What is going on? I tried to go viral again, and I posted another video, and it was like calling all beginners who want to learn how to sew. And then that got me 500,000 followers. I don't need to keep on asking for another sign if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I know it's what okay, cool, cool. I've never really seen big jumps like that happen for
Yeah.
other accounts or in general.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, I don't know what to do now.
Mm.
And so the rest of the year was really figuring out what I wanted to do, how I wanted to manage this, what opportunities were going to come my way, and kind of how do I handle this. 2024, I started to join a co-working space. So that's when I was like, okay, cool. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing and how I'm supposed to be doing it. Let's start putting elements in place where my environment reflects how I want to carry this forward. What I used to do was go and work in the local library. A library isn't an office. So I found a co-working space, absolutely love it. I still use it. Started to build a really good community around me. Illusion that comes with social media is with the numbers. The way I view numbers and statistics on Instagram is really just pixels on a screen. The things that really, really, really matter to me is, was I a good friend today? Did I help someone? In real life, stuff really matters to me. Online is a benefit. And also I see my followers as they put me here. Like, I do not take it for granted at all. If it matters to my followers, it matters to me. And when I do misstep, always put my hand up for it. I think one thing I'm very vocal about is I still do buy fast fashion. I still buy clothes. Just because I can sew my own clothes doesn't mean I have to. You can run everywhere. You don't, no one would expect you to run everywhere. And I think that is an important part of like forward wardrobe as an element. I've been on this journey for 20 years now. It didn't just happen. I wouldn't expect someone to come into the sewing community as a new person and look at different people in the sewing community and think that they are not good enough because they're still buying clothes.
That's one of the things that, that I like about your account and your business is your ethos is very similar to mine in that, sustainability. I use loads of charity shop fabrics.
Mm,
For me, I've been sewing since I was a little, probably eight-ish. I started sewing.
yeah.
And we
I
all
was 9, so around the same age.
I grew up with sort of charity shops and jumble sales. So
Car boot sales as well.
yeah, not so much car boot sales because that's sort of less clothing. So I used to go with my mum and buy loads of things from there. But it wasn't, I mean, it's much more socially acceptable now. But
Oh,
back
huge, hugely. It
it
used to be
wasn't
seen
then.
as like frugal and tatty and
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
So we were sort of, I've been brought up with that and we were doing it before it was like it was okay to do. I just think it's ingrained in me. And also, like when my kids were little, my kids are like 22 and 24 now, most of their clothes were and toys were bought from the charity shop. Now you can sort of like people are quite proud of it, but back then it just wasn't really something that most people did.
That's why it's so important to rebrand sewing
Yeah.
as something that is trendy and is cool, air
Yeah.
quotation. If there is the option to do or purchase something sustainability, you're kind of frowned upon if you don't. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're all now made so aware of the consequences of our impact.
Yeah.
We know better, so do better. But definitely when it comes to thrifting and secondhand, that has had a massive increase.
Mm.
But now also, I think with that, people don't need to buy as much, so they're
Yeah.
buying quality because they think to themselves, oh, if I don't wear it or whatever, I can resell it. That's an element of it as well. So that's really key. But with the sewing, I still think there's a bigger push that's coming
Mm.
because I think a lot of people are stuck on the skill to do it. There's a definite barrier to start enjoying it. When you learn something for the first time, you're just like, this mentally hurts. Like, I just, like everyone said that this would be nice and relaxing and I'm stressing out because I don't know how to gather something.
Yeah.
But if you present it into like this is a gather and here how it's made, you take your strip of fabric and da. I think that's what Ford wardrobe is so important in doing.
Mm-hmm.
It is about presenting it in a language that people my age understand. Gingham and frills before were seen as kind of very like, we rebranded it as cottagecore, and cottagecore is cool, but what it used to be, farm wear wasn't.
You've got some of your own patterns you've designed, haven't you?
Yeah, I initially started Ford to do sewing patterns. What I came to kind of realize is there is nothing special about my sewing patterns. There are much better patterns out there that are beautiful and gorgeous and that I love than my own. And like the amount of work that goes into producing a sewing pattern is
Massive.
Months. Like it would take me months to just do like a basic t-shirt.
Yeah, it does. I just did my first trouser pattern, and it took, like you say, months and months. And there are so many skills that you have to learn in order to put that pattern together. I mean, I was really proud of it.
So I kind of stepped back and I looked at, what do I really enjoy doing? I really enjoy doing like these sewing hacks, tips and tricks, and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
What I did in 2024 was I released a beginner's guide to sewing course with videos and tutorials and patterns. So it takes someone from absolute never been on a sewing machine before, never had to making your first sewing project. And that was great. However, it was just something ticked. Like there wasn't a bigger impact, and it was great. It was something good to have done because it's a course, it's a video course, so it's at a higher price point.
Yeah.
It didn't really stick in with my ethos of like sewing. There should be no insurmountable barrier to entry to learn how to sew. So I rethought that, and then I took elements out of it and made it into an ebook that I included my sewing patterns in. And that did really well. So ebooks are kind of where I'm at. So it's an element of my digital product offering that you kind of get a bit of a taster for what sewing is on my Instagram and on my YouTube. But then if you're kind of going, hang on a minute, why did she use that needle on that fabric but that one on that fabric? Like, why? I want to learn more about this thing. Then that's a natural progression. I started doing that, and that's really where I'm very happy at. I include so much information in these ebooks. There's a beginner one and it's 52 pages, but it covers exactly what sewing machine to get. It covers what fabrics to get started with. It tells you what thread to get started with, because there's so many questions around when it comes to learning to sew. Is an area where I can direct people to who want to learn how to sew at their own pace on an ebook, rather than having to find a particular reel on Instagram. So that's kind of where I went.
I suppose, you have to sort of think what do I enjoy most? And what do I, also, what is going to make money if it's a business? Otherwise it's just a hobby.
See, this is why it's so frustrating, is because I've come across a lot of people in the sewing industry who want to make money in this industry as like not exorbitant amounts, just like a living or a part-time kind of thing. And they're struggling with it. And to that, I go, like, what are you willing to do whilst you figure it out? Like, I did hospitality whilst I was building up my business. I just kind of really stopped and listened to the feedback I was getting and how I was going to make this a thing. You've got to play to your strengths. The one thing with the sewing patterns, I would love to design multiple sewing patterns, but what I discovered is that balancing the energy that goes into them, the time, the effort, everything. You may launch it, people go, oh, it's not my style. That's that. I've been guilty of that, buying sewing patterns and then never making them up. Just what we do. This is what we do. So is that kind of how you want your business to be run, like you've got to really, really listen. Like I wanted it to be a bigger impact
Yeah.
than me single-handedly, because if I'm selling sewing patterns, I'm selling to people that already know how to sew.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the thing. And I
Yeah.
remember I was walking through a local park when this thought came to me, and it was, you have to teach somebody how to read before you can sell them a book. You need to teach people how to sew before you sell them a sewing pattern. Teaching became an element of that very early, air quotations, early on. And then I kind of just went with it. And since then, it's been good. I just kept on going. And that's kind of where I'm at now.
You have that, a million people wanting to teach a million people to sew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teach 1 million people how to sew. And like across all social media accounts, I'm at
Oh,
993,000.
wow.
So
Wow.
7,000 away from a million. But again, it's still just pixels on a
Yeah.
screen. And
Just a
I'm
number.
very grateful and thankful for that. And I see it as a massive responsibility because nearly a million people have allowed me onto their device. How am I then going to go, okay, a million people now follow me. Now, what am I going to do with that? It's kind of like that whole thing
Got a
of like,
responsibility.
yeah, it is a responsibility, but now it's kind of like, okay, you set yourself this goal. Now what? The next step for me is to really make it a sustainable business model in the sense that I can take a wage from it, which I am currently, which is great. But how can I make it go beyond that? So teaching people how to sew, how do we create something in that space where it's community, where it's resources, where it's measuring that impact. For example, the jeans that I'm wearing today, the hem ripped because I wear them so much. The
Mm.
hem ripped and the pocket bag has now disintegrated. Like how it starts off with a little rip and then you put your
Yeah.
hand through it, the whole thing goes. You're like, oh my God, the other day I was walking with my sister and I put my phone in my pocket and then all of a sudden it ended up in my boot. And I completely forgot. And I was like, oh my God, where's my phone? And it ended up in my boot. But if I didn't know how to sew,
Yeah. You'd throw them
I
away.
probably I would throw them away.
Yeah.
So first of all, I repaired the pair of jeans just by top stitching that hem and whatnot. And then I put a little goose on it. So I'm going to try and show you.
Oh, cute. When you said a little goose, I was thinking, is that a term that I've not heard before?
No,
That's
just a little embroidered goose. Because
cute.
I don't have my full sewing setup in here, so I can't really do a lot of bigger things. I can't do full projects. So I'm just like, I'm going to go through my pile of stuff that needs repairing. And
Yeah.
also, we're switching from seasons here. We're going from winter to summer now. So I take this time and this opportunity to kind of pack away my winter stuff and like fix up any things that I need fixed, you
Yeah.
know? So that's a really great time to do all of that. But yeah, so these jeans, I did that little goose on there with some embroidery. And then I am going to fix this pocket bag. But if I didn't know how to sew, I would have thrown them away. So
Yeah.
my skill on learning how to sew has saved these. So how can I
Mm.
like lock that or get other people involved in it? Or that is now where we go from 1 million followers to like 1 million pieces of clothing saved from land. That's the next
Yeah.
that impact that it has. So that's kind of where I'm at now
Yeah.
with it all.
No, no, that's really good. I really totally agree with you. Totally.
Yeah.
Because
So yeah.
yeah, it's a mind shift, isn't it? It's about
And
not just
that's
chucking
the
things
other thing.
away.
It's a huge mind shift. And it doesn't just happen in your sewing element, it happens in other areas of your life.
Mm.
You know, like now, like a pair of jeans take 7 years worth of human drinking water to grow. And if you walk into a Marks and Spencer's or a Zara or a H&M, how many pairs of jeans are in there?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I get it, the whole water reuse system and site, I get that. But the amount of energy that has gone into making that one thing, I don't want to just throw it away. When I first started Ford, it started off at like a 5 year mission to sew everything in my wardrobe, like me made wardrobe kind of thing.
Mm.
Because I used to buy a lot of fast fashion. I used to be like going to the top shop every other weekend because we had one top shop in New Zealand. Unless I need something ultra specific like gym wear or
Mm.
socks or something like that, I don't go shopping. I
Mm.
really don't. And if I do, I'll go to a charity shop first to find a pair of jeans because so many jeans in charity.
Yeah.
There are so many other ways to get something. And I adopted this mindset of if you couldn't buy it new, what would you do? So yeah, it definitely goes into other elements of my life because,
Yeah.
how can it not?
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's very true. And like you said sort of previously, people are more willing to sell their things now, like vintage,
Hugely.
you know,
Depop.
yeah,
Depop is huge here. But like now, I was talking to a friend today, and I said to her, like, how often do you buy a brand new, like go to a shop and buy a brand new piece of clothing? Very rarely, like once every 2 months or so.
hmm,
But for every one of us, air quotations, that buy it very sparingly, there's also the other person that buys 3 or 4 brand new pieces of clothing every fortnight.
yeah,
Um, because Australia is the biggest consumer of clothes, of textiles, with like 53 pieces of new clothing a year, not even taking into consideration buying, not wearing, or buying and returning, or you know
yeah,
all of that kind of stuff. I cannot think about like the state of secondhand charity shops in like 5-10 years with the amount of like Shein and Temu and fast fashion that they'll have.
yeah, yeah. Because the
That
thing
was a
is, I mean, I've sent so much to charity shops over the years.
mm.
But the reality is, once they get to a charity shop, you sort of think, oh, well, that's good because it's all in the cycle and all, people will buy it. But so much of the stuff that go to the charity shop is on its way to landfill because it doesn't get sold.
And also it does get shipped to Africa, Ghana being one of the places it ends up, and it decimates their local textile trade. They're essentially dealing with the end of the line of our disposed textiles.
Mm.
People are a lot more aware. So reselling your clothes, because also people, cost of living, they want to get something back for their clothes.
Yeah.
Um, but
You
yeah,
can
I,
save a
I would
fortune.
say,
It will
yeah,
save you an absolute fortune
yeah.
by buying secondhand and reselling the things that you've got. So it is sustainable, but also economically,
Mm.
it's good for you.
I probably buy a new item of clothing about once a year. It's not because I never go shopping or I never buy clothes or I don't allow myself to buy clothes or even that I sew my own clothes. So I actually wear my clothes. Like
Yeah.
I only buy something once
Mm.
some I have a hole in my wardrobe. Like I wear my clothes all the time.
Yeah.
So the last thing I bought last year was a denim jacket because my previous one was beyond wearable. And I think I've bought a pair of running shorts this year, and that's it.
Mm.
In the grand scheme of things, that's pretty good. I realized I love sewing clothes. Of course, I love sewing clothes, but I don't need any more clothes. But I
Mm.
love sewing. So how do I how do I get
Yeah.
around? That's very interesting. So about 2 years ago, I kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't need any more clothes. I
Yeah.
actually genuinely have enough. And then that kind of took a little bit of out of the fun out of sewing for me.
Yeah.
But then I started really making other fun things. Like I make little bags for friends' birthdays and
Mhm.
stuff. And that I've kind of now really leaned into sewing for other people.
Mhm.
I'm more than happy to make them a pillow cushion lining or whatever, these little things that I can easily do for somebody else that I get the joy of sewing
Mhm.
and they get the end thing. And that's great.
So nice to give a present that you've made. I think that that
Yeah.
is the nicest of gifts. If I give a present, something that I've made, to me, that's like a really, really valuable thing because
Mm.
I may not have spent much money on it, but I've given you my time.
Yeah,
And
and that's worth so much more. So what I do for Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that, I make my friends these little lunch bags. So it's just like
cute.
it's
That's cute. I like that fabric. That's nice.
it's a gingham. It's the best thing ever. And what I've done is I'll be wondering because I still go into fabric shops fairly often. I go in and get inspired, and I'm like, oh, like this makes me want to sew this thing or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. And I go in and I look at fabrics, and if I see a fabric that reminds me of a person, I'll get because this only takes half a meter. I'll get half a meter, and I'll sew that person up a bag and gift it to them for their birthday or Christmas, or they love them. They love it. I loved making it. It's such a good exchange.
I know I went when I went to Paris last week, and obviously I went to all the fabric shops, and it was, it was fantastic. They were, but I was
Oh,
very conscious of how much I bought because I thought I could buy. I mean, there was some beautiful silks that I would have really loved it, but they were very expensive. And I
mm,
just thought, you know what? I've got so much fabric back home. I mean, my sewing room is jammed full of fabric that if I used all the fabric I got, I probably would still be, I'd still be using it for like a good year, I reckon.
mm,
There's that
mm,
much. So I felt very conscious about not buying too much.
mm,
I bought three different pieces all to make something specific. Um, but I did think, oh, I don't want to buy too much because I don't want to just keep adding to this stash of fabrics that I've already got. I need to work
mm.
my way through them instead of just like piling on to what I've already got.
But my rule with fabric is I'll always shop my own stash, always use up what I have.
Hmm.
But when it comes to Liberty,
Liberty's
no,
very nice fabric.
no rules with Liberty,
Yeah.
none.
Well, the one of the fabric shops that I went in last week, in Paris, I mean, there must have been at least close to like 100 different fabrics from Liberty.
No. Oh,
It was
I
ram. It was really, and I love Liberty. I haven't really got much Liberty fabric, but it is very beautiful. It's very pretty.
I will genuinely spend a couple of thousand on Liberty if I could. I have made the mistake of not buying a Liberty before and regretting it. And
Yeah.
it's a constant regret. Like, I should have bought it. I should have bought it. I should have bought it. I've actually got the first Liberty fabric I ever bought. So, the story with this fabric is I bought this fabric back in like 2016, and I
Mm.
only made it into what I'm going to show you it in 2020. So, a long time in my stash, but I knew it was meant for something special. So, the story is like I was at university. We went into this fabric shop in Auckland in New Zealand, and I saw this fabric, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is the most beautiful fabric I've ever seen in my entire life. I love you." But it was like $58 a meter, silk satin,
Mm.
Liberty, and I was like, you know what? I'll come back for you. It's going to be okay. So over the course of 2 weeks, I picked up a whole bunch more shifts at my part-time job, and I justified it. So I went back to get the fabric, and it was gone. And I remember driving home over the Harbour Bridge in Auckland, and I was crying because it was like I really wanted that fabric,
Oh no.
and now it's gone, and I don't know what to do. So is what it is, moved on. And then a couple of weeks later, I went back and it was there. And there was like 2.8 meters on the roll, and I needed like 2.5, and I got it. And genuinely, I remember the box I put it in. Like, I kind of took it home and I put it in a little shoebox. My fabric stash started out of a shoebox. So I've actually still got some of the first fabrics I ever bought that were in that shoebox. I made it into a coat lining to a coat that I had bought.
That's pretty.
When that coat shell eventually wears out, I'll unpick it and I'll make another coat with that lining because there's no way I'm ever letting go of that lining. I saved every scrap piece of that fabric.
It's so nice when it has like a story behind it as well, isn't
Oh,
it?
Yeah. Well, speaking of a story, this was one of the first things. This is like a little bag that I keep all my wires and like chargers and everything in. And it's one of the first things I ever made when I was like 10 years old. Yeah,
Oh,
so it's like 20 years old, this little bag, and it's still got like,
I've got some toys upstairs because when I was little, the thing I used to make was toys. They were up in the loft actually, and I got them down a few years ago. So I've got those up in sort of well, I've got a sewing room, which is my daughter's bedroom because she left years ago. So I sort of converted her bedroom to my sewing room. So I've got those up there. Yeah, and I found a picture of me a few years ago of me, and I must have been about, I don't know, 9, 10, something like that. And I've got all my things around me that I'd sewed, like a cush
oh,
patchwork
brilliant.
pattern and all. And I think, oh, yeah, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have done something for so many years.
Okay, so I've been loving stained glass windows,
Oh,
right?
yes, beautiful.
Yep. You can do that with fabric. You can,
That's funny you say that. I happened to see a video of somebody doing and she referred to it as I don't even know who it was. I don't think I follow her, but she made a dress and she referred to it as like a stained glass dress. So it was very, very thin fabric and you could obviously
yeah,
see all of the
see all the
seams.
seams.
Yeah, and then it was sort of hung up
Yeah.
in the window and it did look very, very beautiful. I mean, I'm not
I
sure
think,
how practical it would be to wear, but
yeah,
it looked very beautiful.
I would love to one day do like have a living room or a dining room or like a central area, and the curtains be stained glass windows, and
Mm.
it be like that kind of art deco design, and
Yeah,
it's
that would
like
be very, very pretty.
it
Yeah,
would be
very beautiful.
gorgeous. It would be so gorgeous. And I've been thinking about it for 3 years now, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to do. So I need to practice for a bit first, I think.
Yeah, I think you need to do that. If you've been thinking about it for that long, you definitely need to be doing that.
Oh, definitely.
I could actually sit and talk to you
It
literally
is
all day.
for hours,
Yeah,
hours. I know. Like, and this is what I love about sewing is like I genuinely can talk about it for hours.
yeah,
I love going through my fabric stash and being like, oh my God, I got this fabric on the day that da 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 da. Because
yeah,
everything has a memory and it's just so lovely and textural,
yeah.
and talking about the first fabric I ever got, and like, I've got a bag sitting on a shelf over there. And I remember the day I made that bag, and I remember picking out the fabric for it, and I remember what it all came from. And it's,
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. You can chart your life through the things that you've bought, the fabrics that you've
yeah,
bought, and it's sort of like a history of your life, really.
it really, really is.
Really nice,
Um,
really
and
nice.
that's why I think it's so important that we hold on to them and
Mm,
that they're made to last. And as time goes on, like those kinds of things are going to be more and more important to us because, speaking of like AI and like we briefly touched on it before. Yeah, I think with the rise of technology, I think people are going to become a lot more aware of the human touch and the
yes.
human connection and all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And it's like, hey, we're the sewing community. We've been here for years, and like, I think that's really important. When I teach with empathy. I have known this stuff for 20 years. Somebody starting new doesn't. So how
Mm,
can I teach them in the way that they can understand? There's no point me saying gather the top two lines of stitching and base stitch and da 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 da. No, it's not going to work.
yeah, yeah.
So what we're going to do,
Basics.
we're going to da 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 da, and taking it through in such an easy to understand format that people enjoy the process of it, because
Yeah.
it is a process. And like, I have a student who I taught setting up a sewing machine 5 years ago now, and I remember in the lesson she like was really scared of using a merino, and she was really scared of this fabric, and she didn't know what to do with this. And like, sometimes I'll be scrolling through Instagram and I'll see her project and they're bloody amazing.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
I'm so proud of you,
Yeah,
because I remember when you were at the start and you've made such amazing progress. And that's what it is like, I
yeah.
was only part of her sewing journey for like a year and a half ish,
Hmm.
but the stuff that she's gone on to do
Hmm.
is incredible.
Yeah.
And she's not gate kept that skill to herself. She's
Hmm.
done more with it now.
Yeah.
She invited friends around for a clothing swap, and she helped with XYZ. Like, she does so much more, and
Oh,
that's
that's
why it's
nice.
important,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah, could sit and talk to you all day. So it's probably good I have got to go for a walk because otherwise I would
I've
keep
got dinner
talking to you.
downstairs.
Oh, nice,
Yes,
nice.
I know. Okay,
Oh,
thank you so much for setting this up. It's been great.
yeah,
I've really, really looked forward to it.
yeah.
Thank you
No, it
so
was
much.
lovely. It was really good to talk to you. And thanks for your time. It's very
That's
generous of
quite
you.
all right. Quite all right.
Oh,
Anytime.
right.
Have
Yeah,
a
keep in touch.
enjoy your walk.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.